Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video in the Java series. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to do mapping using the JavaStream API. Alright, so far we've learned about how to do the filter operation on a stream and also how to use the for each operation on a stream. In this episode, I want to show you how you can use the map operation to transform elements from one object into another object. So yeah, it's actually a very simple concept, but there's a few nuances to it that you should know, so let me go ahead and show you. So mapping, which is just transforming one object into another. And this, it doesn't have to be a different object type, so it doesn't have to be like a integer into a double, or a double into an integer or something like that. It can be an integer into another integer or something like that. And of course, if we're talking about primitives, that's going to be boxed into a integer object, as you would know. But you get the point, right? But yeah, I hope you guys are doing good. I've just been kind of chilling recently, dealing with school and stuff like that. And I hope everyone's doing good yourselves. If you live in Texas, by the way, if you're my fellow Texan people, I hope you're doing well, because it's like minus 2,000 degrees right now. And no electricity, no water and stuff like that. So if you're out there in Texas, good luck, because we are not prepared, but we're gonna be fine though. So anyway, we're gonna make a new list here of strings, and it's gonna be a list of names like I usually do, and it's gonna be a couple names. So list.of returns a list, and we can just pass in a list. So Bob, Jerry, Cody, Ben, Kittler, and Santa. Cool, so we got some names here. Now let's think about what we want to do to these names to demonstrate the mapping operation. So first we have to figure out how can we make a stream out of this. So since it's a collection, we can simply do names.stream, and then after that we can do whatever you want. So let's do map, and then if we do tab and then control P, it says it accepts a function as its parameter. So a function is of course going to be a functional interface called function. So if we were to do new function, we can get some information on that. So it says represents a function that accepts one argument and produces a result. This is a functional interface whose functional method is apply. So press tab. Here's what it looks like. It accepts it accepts a string in this case, because we have a collection of strings, and then it returns a new object, which can be whatever you're mapping it into. Okay, because I told you that the map method here transforms an object into another object, essentially. That's all it really does. So let's say that we want to, what do we want to do for this? Let's say that we want to change each name in the stream into an integer. Then the integer will represent how many characters are in that name string. So to do that, we will do, well, first of all, let's just use a lambda, because lambdas are obviously much more concise than a, fully written functional interface implementation. So we're going to do name, because it's a list of names, but you can call it whatever you want. And then open that up, and what we want to do is we want to return the new object that we have, that we're mapping this into. So in this case, we can do return name dot get, or just length. There we go. So it's going to return an integer that represents the amount of characters in that string. So what we're doing is mapping each string in this stream into an integer. Very simple. And just to see the result of this, we're going to do system.out : print line, which is a method reference. Okay, so let's run this and see what we get into the console. You get 3, 5, 4, 3, 6, 5. Cool, because 3, 5, 4, you get the point. Very simple. And we can of course make this much more concise by replacing this with the method reference itself. But I just want to tell you that I leave it, unsimplified as much as I can, just so I can demonstrate to you the concepts that I'm trying to demonstrate. This is a tutorial about how to use the map method, not a tutorial on how to make your Lambda expressions more concise. I've already shown you how to do that, and that's not the aim of this tutorial. So for those of you who are saying stuff about that, there you go. So yeah, so you can make it much more concise if you want to, but like I said just 2 seconds ago, that's not what I'm gonna do. So again, just to recap, we have a collection of strings which you can think of as just a bucket, and then we're making a stream out of that. So we can think of putting a pipe on one end of the bucket, and then the water is flowing out of the bucket, and the water is the strings of names. And then somewhere in that pipe, we have some kind of operation happening to the water in that bucket, and that water is being transformed into another substance, maybe hydrogen, right? Because H2O, water, you're taking the hydrogen out. In this case, we're taking a string, then transforming it into an integer. And so the hydrogen, which is something that you got out of that map operation, is going to go down the rest of the pipe. In this case, the integers are going to go down the rest of the pipe and end up in the for each operation here. So yeah, hopefully that illustration helps a little bit. It's very, very simple. Just think of it as a pipe, and then you're transforming the substance in that pipe. All right, so let me give you some more examples here. Oh yeah, so what we can do here is, so now that we've covered the second intermediate operation, you now know that you can chain together multiple intermediate operations. So we know for a fact that this map here, if you do Control Q, returns a new stream. In this case, we're mapping it into an integer, right? So it's going to be a stream of integers as the generic type. So that means that we can take that and then do some more stuff to it. So let's try doing this again. So we'll do names.stream.map, and we'll do the same thing this time. So name, return name.length. There we go. So we're mapping that, returns a stream of integers, and then now we can filter that. So let's say that we want to filter out only the numbers greater than 4, right? So we want to filter those out. So we want to keep in every number less than 4, less than or equal to 4. So we'll do, in this case, we're not going to do name. We could do that if we want to, but we're going to do num or number just to make it more clear what we're doing, right? So if num is greater than 4, then we want to return false, so it's not going to pass the filter. Otherwise, return true, so it's going to pass the filter. So then after that, we will again print out everything so we can see what we've got here. There we go. And cool. So just to recap, you know, I like repeating myself just to make the point clear. We have a name, we have a thing of names here, a collection of names. We're opening up a pipe, a stream, then we're mapping it, so this returns a stream of integers. And then after that, that stream of integers is going to be filtered, so that's going to return a new stream of integers, which has all of the integers lower than or equal to 4. And then finally, we're taking that stream of integers and then printing out each integer in that stream. Pretty simple. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Let me know if you have any questions about that. So let's continue now. So let's get a new example here. So in this case, let me just do a bunch of random numbers. So we'll do an array this time. So a integer array of numbers that's going to be equal to 13, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 31, 23, something like that. Now let's say that in the last example, right, we transformed the string into an integer. So how about this time we transform each of these integers into a string and then print them out just for fun. Yeah, so in this case, how do we get a stream from an array? So we know for a fact that we can do arrays.stream, and this returns a stream. So if you look closely here though, if you pass in a integer array, this actually returns not a stream but a int stream, which is very, very similar, except that it's more specialized for integer operations. And let's go ahead and check out what that means for us. So let's pass in numbers, which is our array. And then now we can do any of the basic, operations that we already know about, except that it's a little different. So in this case, if we were to map it, it wouldn't be the map that we just saw a second ago. It would be a map that it wants you to return a integer. So essentially it wants you to map a integer into a new integer. That's what it wants. And how do we know that? If we do new int unary operator and press tab, as you can see, the return type is an integer. So it's accepting an integer, and then it returns an integer. So that's what I mean by saying the int stream that is being returned from this is more geared towards integer operations. So if you just be aware of that fact, and then you're good to go. Besides that, it's pretty much the exact same thing as the regular stream that we saw a second ago, the generic stream that we saw. So so let's say that you don't want to map it into another integer, you want to change it into something else, for example, a string. So in this case, if you have an int stream or a double stream or a long stream, you can do map to object or map to double, map to long. You get the point, right? So in this case, we want to do map to object. So since we want to map it to a string, And in this case, it's asking for an int function functional interface. So let's do int function, press tab, enter. And then now we have essentially what we saw last time, except that it's a different name. So instead of just map, since we have an int stream, this is a map to object method, which is the same thing. It's an apply function that accepts an integer, which is the type of thing that we're streaming through, and then returns a generalized object because we're mapping into some random object type. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So now let's use another Lambda expression so we can do this. So let's say that we want to change each number, we'll say number, into a string. So that to do that, it's actually easy. We can just do return, what do we want to do? String dot value of, and this is just a simple method you can use to obtain a string from a primitive type. So string dot value of, and then pass in the number, and then now that should return the string version of that. So essentially we have a stream of integers. We're mapping each of these integers into a string, and then this is going to return. Try and guess what this is going to return. If you think about it, it's not going to return a int stream because we're not, doing a integer mapping operation. It's actually going to return a generalized stream, a generic stream like we saw a second ago, because obviously we're returning a different type. So in this case, let's say that, pretend this is not here for a second. Let's say that we did go ahead and use map. As you can see, map returns a new int stream because since we're mapping one integer into another integer, it makes more sense to return a new int stream instead of, a generic stream. And another reason the int stream and the double stream, the long stream are, good for certain circumstances is also because each of the integers that are being passed into the stream are, I think, auto-boxed for you, or you don't have to worry about casting them or something like that. It's something I read. I forgot the exact details, but I think you guys understand. Just remember that, each of these specialized streams are more geared towards, whatever the type is. But most of the time, in my experience, what I've seen is that you're going to be using a generalized generic stream, so you really only need to know how to use that, and then if you need the specialized ones, then it's not that much different, and you can obviously just read the documentation as you go along. That's how I figured this out. Okay, hopefully that long explanation makes a lot of sense for you guys. So now let's go ahead and print out each of these so we can see if we did this correctly. So print line, and let's see what we get. There we go. So we get 13, 2, 3, and obviously we can't tell if they're strings or not just because that's just how they look in the console, but we can assume that it's a string since we're doing return string.value of and using a mapping operation. So you might be wondering, what's an actual example of when you want to use just a map? Let's say that you have an int stream and you want to map it. What's a good example of that? I can give you one. So let's say that instead of that, we do arrays.stream numbers, and then we pass in, or we do map. And then let's say that we want to change each of the numbers in this stream here, and we want to multiply each of these by 20. We can easily do that. All we gotta do is do return number times 20. So again, we're just mapping each of these integers into a new integer, and we're multiplying them by 20. That's the new integer that is produced from that. So anytime at all that you want to transform something in your stream, use a map. That's that simple, okay? So now we'll do for each and print it out like always. Boom, chicka boom, boom. All right, if I can click it, there we go. There we go. So now we get 260, 40, 60, 100, 2464, 260, 620, 460. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, so you may have noticed that there's also, besides the map to object and stuff like that, there's also map to double and map to long. What's some circumstances that you might want to use this for? Well, you might be able to guess this is pretty simple, but basically any situation where you know that you want to change the integer into a double, then you would want to use these because it automatically, it's just simple that way, because it returns, as you can see, a double stream. So now you can do double or long operations upon those more easily. And yeah, I'm sure there's something, a good detail I'm missing on this, there's probably a better reason why you might want to use these, but if you think about it, it's just as simple as, use something that fits the circumstance that you need it with, right? In this case, we want to map something to a double, so let's use a map to double method. So let's say that we want to change each of these numbers here into their double representation. That's easy enough. All we got to do is pass in the number into this method here, and then it'll be mapped into a double. So how do we do that? So if we do new int to double function, as you can see, it's a very simple apply function. You just pass an integer and then returns a double. So you can execute whatever logic you want inside of here. So return value, and that value will be automatically, you know, casted into a double, or you can do it yourself if you're a pro. And then after that, we will print it out. There we go. All right, cool. Let's see what we get. As you can see, the double representation of each of these integers here, if I can speak English. So we get 13.0, 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, etc. And you can even make this much more concise. Yes, you can use a lambda, but if you think about it, you can think about it. You can really just do this: value and then value. And I don't think there's an easier way to write this. I think this is the most concise it can be. But if you think about it, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Basically, since this is mapping to double, it's called map to double. So if you just pass in the integer, it'll automatically map into a double. So it's that simple. So if you run this, you're gonna get the same result. There we go. So we get 13.0, 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, and so on, because each of these integers are mapped to a double. So again, if you think about it, if you have a situation where you need to map something like an integer into a double, or a long into a double, or something like that, then you can use this function here or method here, and you're good to go. So if you didn't use this method here, you would have had to do map to object, again, because it's a int stream at the moment, not a generic stream. With a generic stream, you would have had to do map, right? So in this case, if you did not use the map to double method, you would have had to do a map to object and then do the cast manually, because it's not going to cast it for you since it doesn't know what type you want it to be. Make sense? I hope so. So there we go. We get 13.0 and so on. So if we remove this, we don't get that. We just get the integer still. There we go. Okie dokie, so I'm kind of rambling a lot, but let me give you one more example here. So I have two objects. We have animal, which is a simple animal class. We have a name and a health, and then we have a constructor for that, and then getters and setters. And then under that, we have a raccoon class that extends animal. So animal is the parent class of raccoon, and this has the fields of Cheetos eaten, which is a number, and then the chunkiness of the raccoon, which goes from 1 to 10. And this has a constructor itself, which calls the super constructor, and then also sets the types or the fields of this class whenever you instantiate it. And then we have getters and setters for that too. So let's use these objects here to give you an example of something a little more realistic, I guess you could say. It's not going to be, really realistic because there's only so much I can show in this little video. But let's say that I have let me copy this real quick. Let's say that I have a list of raccoons called chunk boys. And so we're going to do arrays.asList, and then we're going to have 4 different raccoons. So new raccoon, then a name, then a health, Cheetos eaten, which is a number, 23 Cheetos eaten for this guy, and then chunkiness. Okay, so let's make a stream here just to play around with this new list that we have. So we'll do chunkboys.stream. And the first thing I want to do is try mapping each of these raccoons that I have here into an animal. So since the raccoon class extends the animal class, each raccoon is an animal, so you can polymorph that raccoon into an animal or cast it, in other words. So we can do map, and then each raccoon we want to cast into an animal object, raccoon. And then now we have as if you can guess right now, this means that now we have a stream of animals because we're mapping each raccoon into an animal. And then after that, let's try mapping each of these animals into an integer that represents their health, or actually a double, because the health of the raccoon is specified by a double value. So we'll do map, and we can either use map, the function itself, the map method, or we can do the method called map to double. Either one works actually. So since we looked at both, let's just go ahead and use map to double, since we know that for this circumstance, it's better to use this because it's more geared towards mapping something to a double. So we can do a raccoon, or actually animal now, because we mapped into a stream of animals, and then animal.getHealth. And now that's all you got to do. Or you can make this even more concise, so you can just simply do animal method reference get health and get rid of that. So now what it's going to do is take the stream of animals and then map that stream of animals into a stream of doubles, because we're grabbing the health of each of these raccoons, which is a double, and that's the new double stream that is returned from this. As you can see, double stream. And then now after that we can do for each, and then we can print out each one of these so we can see what we got. So stream.out method reference print line. There we go. There we go. So let's run this now and see. And now we get 100, 1, 99.9, 10.0. And that corresponds exactly with the health of each raccoon. Perfect. Perfecto. And we could have done map, of course, because maybe for some reason we don't want a double stream. We want just a regular generic stream of doubles. So we could have done this, and that would still return a stream of doubles the same way, because this get health thing returns a double. So you could have done that. It's up to you actually, but I think y'all get the point. It's up to you. And it depends on the circumstance. So we get 100.0, 1.0, 99.0, or 99.9, and then 10.0. Pretty much the exact same. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much it for this episode. Hopefully you found this interesting. It's pretty simple, I hope. I hope you didn't find it too confusing. You're just simply transforming objects in your stream to another object, and that can change the type, or the type can be the same even. It's truly up to you. Yeah, so if you have any questions about what I showed you this episode, then please ask me. You know, we have a Discord in the description below, so make sure to join that. You can ask for help there. You know, get involved in the community. It's up to you. Just join, get some friends, talk to people about programming, ask for help, all that cool stuff. And also, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode, so you can check out all of the code. It's going to be written up with comments and everything, so you could come back to it at a later date and have it bookmarked and, refresh your mind on this topic if you need to. So make sure to check that out and bookmark it if you want to in the description below. And one final thing is that if you want to support this channel, if you want to do that, you can click the join button below this video, and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, $5 or $10. So that's up to you. If you want to help me out, then that's the one way to do it. And that comes with some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, including this one here. My members get to see this first. And also you get a cool rank on my Discord server, so you can show everyone how swaggy you are. And finally, you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So thanks to all of you guys. Thanks for supporting me. To whoever is not a member currently, that's okay. I still love you. You guys are watching my videos, and I appreciate that just the same. So thank you. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Leave a like if you want to see more. Subscribe, and peace.